Greetings, travelers, and welcome back to Goldbound, the challenge series where our rogue, Goldylocked, is trapped in Elywnn Forest until we earn enough gold for a WoW token. At today's market rate, that's about 270,000 gold. And as of last episode, we're sitting on a tidy 179,000 gold. But don't let that number fool you. We've got a long road ahead, and every copper still counts. The only connection to the outside world? A one-way trip to Stormwind, for the auction house and our bank. Everything else has to come from Elwynn. And while you might expect things to get a little more predictable at this point, let's just say the forest has a few surprises left. So buckle up. Time to mine some copper, pick a few pockets, and maybe, just maybe, take one step closer to unlocking the next zone. Welcome back to Goldbound. But first, I want to give a big thank you to today's sponsor, Elywnn. Elywnn is a game performance and connection optimizer. I'm actually mid-move in real life right now, and I've been playing Goldylocked off my phone's hotspot. I've been averaging about 300 ping, with some nasty spikes. Really not ideal. So, giving Elywnn a try. The difference was instantly noticeable. So to get started, just head to Elywnn using the link in the description or pinned comment. All you gotta do is create an account and download the program. You'll get a free 3-day trial, no credit card required. And it works with over 2,000 games, not just WoW. But for Goldylocked, I selected World of Warcraft, optimized my routes, and hit play. Now, behind the scene, Elywnn is doing its thing, using a dynamic AI-based route optimization to stabilize your connection. Here's the result. I've been holding a stable 110 ping, off a hotspot. So, whether you're gaming from the boonies like me, or just tired of lag ruining your fights, Elywnn can help you optimize what you're working with. So go ahead, click the link down below to grab your free 3-day trial, and thank you again to Elywnn for supporting Goldbound. Now as we're back in the forest adventuring, if last episode taught us anything, it's that our old friend, the Frayed Knot farm, still pulls its weight, even with the market prices way down. In fact, in the mailbox opening last episode, I caught a full stack of 20 selling. Up until now, we've been treating Frayed Knots too much like a background passive farm, with slow but steady returns. But the truth is, at least right now, these things are liquid. They move. And every time the market gets yoinked up by a greedy resetter, there's a window, a brief golden window for us to capitalize. So I ran the numbers. How many Frayed Knots can we collect in 1 hour with a focused rotation and no distractions, just pickpocketing every humanoid spawn along our route? I'll toss this path up again on the screen. It's about a 10 to 12 minute loop, and it's pretty sustainable. You can just keep circling it forever, and the pockets keep resetting. And the results? Well, they kind of shocked me. We pulled in 30 Frayed Knots in a single hour. That's 30 knots per hour, which makes us officially the fastest rogue on the high seas. Okay, but really, at a regional value at an all-time low of about 220 gold per sail, that's still 7,200 gold per hour. And that's the highest gold per hour we've seen so far in Elwynn. And now that includes a few random whites in the bags and a few bonus herbs and ores that we grabbed along the way when they were close to pickpocket mobs. But remember, if we catch a price reset at the right time, we can sell a few of these for even more than 220 gold each. We're keeping a few stacks posted at all times now. Frayed Knots aren't just background noise anymore. They're inventory staples. And while we wait for those sales to roll in, one by one, or maybe in a lucky lump sum by a resetter, it's time to stock the shelves with something a little more unique. So, we turned our attention back to leatherworking. Now, in the early days of the farms, we dabbled with the old leatherworking enchanting shuffle, only to find out that it didn't really pan out. But after seeing how well our blacksmithing greens have been selling lately, I figured, why not do the same thing here? So we relearned leatherworking and crafted up 1 or 2 of every green and white leatherworking item that we had access to. And no, these aren't high-ticket transmog pieces, but at this stage of the grind, it's all about volume. The more items we've got slowly ticking away on the auction house, the better. But of course, we ran out of light leather fast, which means only one thing: back to the Live to Win farm. You already know the spot, you already know the boars, and we already knew it would be just enough to top off our supply in a matter of minutes. And with just a few boar sacrifices, we had a fresh stack of crafted leather gear ready to sell. Maybe worth a few hundred gold total, but hey, copper becomes silver, and silver becomes gold. And while we were in the crafting groove, I figured, let's keep this rolling. We had a few hundred linen cloth burning a hole in the bank, so I picked up tailoring again. And the plan? Well, firstly, restock our shirt inventory, since these had been selling pretty well, and to try out a couple of the green and white low-level tailoring recipes. Again, we're not seeing any massive value here, nothing close to the value of the blacksmithing weapons, but these little bits and pieces add up, especially when linen cloth, for us, is practically worth nothing on its own. Now, during this part of the day, it was the weekend and people were pretty active, and we hit a minor snag. Some wandering horde decided to roleplay as the Scourge, and wiped out all the NPCs in Goldshire. So that meant our trainers and our trade skill vendors were gone for a bit. So we waited, patiently, watching the corpses of our tailoring trainer fade into the void. But of course, eventually they respawned, and we unlocked the next level of tailoring recipes, which opened up a few more greens to craft. Except several of these higher level, if you can call it that, from 60 to 75 tailoring, required green dye. And that, with the vendors we have in Elwynn, is off limits. No vendor I could find in Goldshire sold it, so those items are a luxury reserved to travelers outside of the zone-locked world. So for now, we list what we can. And with our bags full of greens, shirts, cloth and leather, it was off to the auction house to list these up. But on our way over, we made a quick stop at the seasonal event currently sweeping Elywnn, and all of Azeroth, the Midsummer Fire Festival. And while the fires are roaring and the torches are lit, and the revelers are partying across the continents, well, Goldylocked here, he's still zone locked. And this particular festival revolves around visiting bonfires in different zones, which is great, and might even have some profit available if you can travel between zones. But for us, here in Elwynn, there's just one flame, one lonely bonfire, and a ribbon pole with just Goldylocked and one fellow traveler dancing. So, after a few ribbon twirls, we paid our respects and then packed it in. Festival complete, Goldbound style. And so back we went to Stormwind to scan our auctions, undercut a few gold goblins, and repost our fresh haul of leatherworking and tailoring crafts. At this point, Goldylocked is basically a jack of all trades. Blacksmithing weapons, tailoring shirts, leatherworking greens, scrolls, glyphs, cat crates, you name it, we're selling it. But while running one of our usual repost scans, something caught my eye. We didn't have any frayed knots to scan under, which is strange, considering we just farmed a whole stack of them. So I checked the market, and it was reset to 1,000 gold. So, yeah, someone tried to force a price spike, which is exactly what we premeditated. And since we had a nice stockpile sitting on the auction house, that little market reset might mean some juicy mailbox returns. But that wasn't the only gold goblin stunt pulled this weekend. Turns out, someone was trying to corner the market on copper bars. They bought out the entire stock of copper bars and relisted at 20 gold per bar. Now this kind of market manipulation is strictly off limits for Goldylocked, considering we can't buy on the auction house. But that doesn't mean we can't capitalize on someone else doing it. And normally, we don't even bother selling the bars themselves. We usually craft them into copper bolts and list those for 6 to 8 gold a pop. But as luck would have it, I was already sitting on a stash of copper bars, just waiting to get turned into bolts during my next AFK session. You know, while I make dinner or take the dog for a walk. So instead, we swooped in and listed the bars just below the reset price. Now, the market usually corrects itself pretty quick after a stunt like this, but if we can slip in a few premium sales before it crashes back down, that's a win. Alright, enough auction house goblinery. It's time to head back into the forest. We need more loot, more coin, because unless we find a new source of gold soon, we might just be stuck in Elywnn forever. Now as you know, we've been hustling Donna Anthea's pets since episode 1. Goldycat has paid their dues, both as a companion and as a commodity. And after last week's upload, where we revealed you can sell them both as caged and uncaged pets, also known as used and unused, some travelers mentioned that the used pets might be selling at a higher price because they can actually be sold after they've been leveled. You can learn a pet, do a whole bunch of pet battles, and then resell it for a higher price. And that might explain why our listings of used cats aren't moving too quickly. They're all level 1. So, we took Goldycat out into the wild to cut his teeth, to test 2 potential methods of gold making with battle pets. Now, first off, if you haven't played retail WoW since Mists of Pandaria, you might have missed the addition of battle pets. It's a full-on turn-based minigame inside of WoW. This is one where you collect pets, fight trainers, and even duel other players with their pets. Not exactly my usual flavor, but if it makes some gold, I'll sip it. But here's the problem. Everything in Elwynn Forest is a critter and can't be put into a cage after you've learned it. And the game makes a big distinction between pets that are cageable. These are the ones that are found from drops or purchased from vendors, and those that can only be captured in the wild. Wild-caught pets can't be traded. They can't be caged, so they can't be sold to other players. You can add them to your collection, sure, but that doesn't exactly help the gold counter. From all my searching through Elwynn Forest, I couldn't find a pet that we could cage and then sell. Just ones to pad the collection logs. To make matters worse, pets don't scale endlessly like players do in retail. They suffer from the classic diminishing experience returns. Once your pet is more than about 5 levels above a target, they won't get any XP from defeating it. Hard stuck. So unless we find higher level pets, which Elwynn definitely doesn't have, our pets are going to be stuck around level 6 or level 7. Now, there is one workaround. Julia, the battle pet trainer of Elwynn. She offers a daily challenge that gives a chunk of XP and around 20 gold. Not exactly a gold mine, we're not going to max a bunch of cats anytime soon, but we'll take what we can get. So for now, we'll just keep Goldie Cat on the daily Julia grind. But unless I'm missing something big in the battle pet front, we're not hitting level 25 anytime soon. And pet battling, at least for now, is a dead end for profit. So with pet battles behind us, I figured it was time to return to the one thing that has never let us down in this journey, the Elvin Shuffle. Our trusty, fully optimized dual gathering into full-on production rotation. A system that's carried this entire challenge on its back. And over our time in Elwynn, we've refined this loop more than once. First, we discovered that you can mine gold while mounted, a game changer. We found the copper bars to copper bolt shuffle. After that, the herbs to pigment shuffle, and just last episode, those pigments to the glyph of stars trick. Truth be told, I think we've pushed this route about as far as it'll go. Copper bolts sell, I'm pretty sure people are buying them for the current War Within and Goblin mount, and using them as scraps to get current materials. Definitely not something Goldylocked will be crafting anytime soon, so that's why we're not using the bolts to process anything further. But the core of this route remains strong, and we actually hit a milestone while doing it, level 50. This gave us a quest to leave Elywnn too, so we'll go ahead and hold on to that one for later. And here's how it all went down. I gave it a 1 hour full sprint, dual gathering. No detours, no distractions, just Goldylocked, the forest, and the minimap. And what did we get? Well, 337 copper ore, and a few gems to go along with it. The total raw, unprocessed gold from mining is about 1500. Herbs were pretty generous too. We got 195 silverleaf, 134 peace bloom, and 114 earthroot. That's another 1700 gold in raw value. So before we even touch the crafting bench, that's a 3200 gold haul. Really not bad for a starting zone. But now, we flip the switch. Full-on Elwyn Shuffle style. First, you gotta stay on mining just long enough to smelt the bars. Then you drop it, pick up engineering, grind out about 40 rough blasting powder to hit 30 skill. Then you unlock the handful of copper bolts recipe. Grab a blacksmithing hammer, walk over to the forge, and forge them all down. Once that's done, you can drop the engineering and pick up inscription. Mill down every herb into alabaster pigment, and quickly turn around and turn those alabaster pigments into moonglow ink. But this is where it gets a bit tricky. You need to use the experimentation option from inscription on the moonglow ink, hoping to get the glyph of stars. There are 4 possible glyphs that you can get, and each try takes 3 moonglow ink. Unfortunately for us, it took us 4 tries this time. Burned about 9 inks. About 90 gold, but we still got it. From there, it's smooth sailing and you just craft every moonglow ink into a glyph of the stars. And the final tally, after a half an hour of processing, is 41 glyph of stars. At the current price, they're about 50 gold each. And that's 2050 gold. They normally go for about 60 gold to 75 gold, but hey, the market's a market. And copper bolts? Well, we got 337 of them, since this is a 1-to-1 transition from ore. With the current market prices, that's about 2,000 gold. Add in some rough stone, some leftover pigments, and a few extra herbs, and we're looking at a final value of about 4,200 gold. So here's the raw math. Gathering only took an hour, and added 3,200 gold, which is 3,200 gold per hour. But gathering and crafting takes an hour and a half and nets about 4,200, or about 2,800 gold per hour. So it's kind of funny. If you're optimizing for pure gold per hour strictly, gathering appears to win. But the shuffle has two big advantages. It's chill and it's satisfying. There's just something about converting piles of herbs into high-ticket glyphs and watching them sell while you're doing something else. It hits different. And importantly, as long as you gather everything yourself, every single gold is profit. Another day in Elwynn and another shuffle complete. Now, you may have already noticed something unusual. We're heading towards the gold share mailbox. Early. That's how we close things out on these videos. One last check, bring in a few modest sales, maybe a frayed knot stack or two, but not today. Today's a little different. Because there's something in there that, well, we need to talk about. So let's go ahead and open it. Okay, this is, without a question, the largest haul we've seen so far. Enough gold to nearly buy a WoW token outright, and when combined with what we have here, enough to end the Elywnn challenge, if we let it. So let's take a closer look, because what I found did give me some pause. A massive chunk of the gold in the mailbox came from 3 items. A pair of beaded gloves, a pale skinner, and a stone knoll hammer. 2 of these, the hammer and the skinner, weren't too suspicious by themselves. They were the cheapest listed on the auction house, and I had multiples up, and only 1 of each sold. But these 3 items together were all purchased by the same buyer. Now I won't say the name directly, but their name was a bit of a play on the word collector, which makes me think it might be legit. I don't want to assume anything. This could just be someone collecting the old gear, a Mog enthusiast, but the numbers are a little concerning. See, the beaded gloves. I barely remember looting these guys. I think they came from one of the chests randomly scattered around Elwynn. Just this week, I got a rare drop from one of those, a white shield, that is actually pretty rare and sold for quite a bit of gold. And same thing with the beaded gloves, they're a no-joke valuable item. And I did some research on them, and Trade Skill Master places the market value closer to 28,000 gold. Over the past 6 months, they have come down a little bit. But these sales don't quite sit right. So here's what I did. The beaded gloves, the 165,000 gold, I don't feel right counting those towards the total gold tally. So I'll be sending that off character. It's a little too random, a little too inflated, and feels a little too much like a donation from a viewer who wanted to help. Now the stone knoll hammer, this is something we were farming. So what I did is I split the difference between the inflated price and the market value, leaving us about a 7,000 gold spread. And the pale skinner, well honestly, this one's fine, it sold under value, so we're going to go ahead and take the gold there. So after all that, between the stone knoll hammer and the pale skinner, we keep 11k and send about 190k off. And I think I can live with that. And if you think this was the right call or the wrong call, let me know down below. But I just want you to know that every step of this journey, it will be transparent. And to be honest, this series has grown beyond what I expected. In hindsight, I should have built protections against stuff like this. But to be fair, when I posted episode 1, I only had 400 subscribers and it wasn't too much of a concern. So going forward, what I'm going to do is Goldylock's true in-game name is going to change periodically with paid name changes. I'm going to use a nameplate add-on that's going to show Goldylocked on screen to keep the theme of the series consistent. But this way, potential donation snipes through buying out high items shouldn't happen in the future. Let's clear out this current auction house stack. And to be honest, frayed knots were moving like hotcakes this week. So let's get back to work. Because Elwynn is not finished yet, but we're close. And of course, we can all take a moment to appreciate the sound of the mailbox. And just like that, we are sitting on a jaw-dropping stack of gold into the 200,000s. Honestly, still blows my mind that this was all earned right here in Elywnn Forest. But, as always, there's a catch. And the WoW token price, still rising. The goalpost has just moved again. So, here's the plan. It's time to roll up our sleeves. We'll double down, go harder than ever, because ready or not, we're breaking out of Elwynn this episode.
And with a gold toll nearly in reach, we keep things simple. A few more laps, frayed knots, herbs, ore, just enough to keep the gold trickling in. We'll offload our last few glyph of stars, and even swing by Julia for a quick duel. 20 gold in the pocket, not bad. But here's the thing, the market seems to be shifting in our favor. The WoW token has dropped to 275k, and judging by some of the items slipping through the sales, we might just have it. It's close, so we head back for a second quick mailbox check. Maybe one last haul if the numbers line up. This could be it. Let's take a look. Oh man, we are close. So insanely close. So it's time to focus up. We're on a few more undercut scans. We only need a little bit of liquid gold. So I tightened up the loop. We're doing laps for herbs, laps for ore, then running back to the auction house to rescan, to make sure we're the lowest priced on the auction house, to repost, rescan, and repeat. And then, during one of these cycles, on the way back to the auction house, I spotted something. The WoW token's live value, which had mostly been climbing through the series, actually dropped by about 1,000 gold, and with surprisingly shaky hands, I headed to the auction house to pick up a WoW token. Now it doesn't go straight into the inventory, so let's go to Goldshire to get it out of the mailbox and claim it in style. And just like that, travelers, we did it. We've officially farmed enough gold in Elywnn Forest only to purchase a WoW token with straight gold. No boosts, no alts, no buying on the auction house except for the token, no outside help, just one zone and one Goldylocked. Let's just say this challenge turned out a little harder than expected at the outset, but the response from the community, way bigger than I could have imagined. So seriously, thank you. Now Goldylocked's journey isn't over, not even close. His true goal is to explore all of Azeroth, one zone at a time. Now of course, the token Goldylocked purchased is soulbound, which means it has to be redeemed by Goldylocked either for game time or account currency. So in this week's members only travelers poll, we'll decide. Do we just add the time for game time subscription, let the WoW tokens stack up in the bank, use the game currency for in-shop purchases, or just let the battle account currency stockpile up? But for now, we've got some zones to unlock, and some auction house to clear up.
Now, from a practical perspective, since we're moving into a brand new zone, I figured it was time for a bit of a auction house spring cleaning. We are keeping a few of the items we intentionally stockpiled, maybe 2 or 3 of each if we specifically farmed for them, but the rest, we're going to trim the fat here. Not because they're bad items, far from it, but because our repost scans have just been getting a little out of hand. Some of them just take too long to cycle through, which doesn't exactly work when we're about to throw ourselves into a brand new ecosystem. So yes, a few choice items are getting tossed into the muck, particularly if we have quite a few of them, but genuinely, I think it's for the greater good. We need to be nimble to get going into this next chapter. Okay, now we need to unlock another zone, because as of right now, we have a WoW token in our bags. And, under the rules of Goldbound, this means we're officially allowed to unlock a new zone for Goldylocked. And remember, given our current mobility rules, the zones that are available for unlocking must be accessible by foot using intended in-game paths. So right now, we have 3 choices. Westfall, Dunmoreau via the Deep Run tram, or Red Ridge Mountains. And I'm going to be real with you, I'm a little bit nervous about this spin. I've got a tier list in my head, both from a what would be fun standpoint and a how much gold can we realistically make standpoint. So, if I had to rank them, Westfall is top tier, hands down. Then Dunmoreau, which is a new zone, but it does have all the same early level crafting materials that Elwynn has. And Red Ridge, well, Red Ridge is Red Ridge. Now to be fair, it does give us quicker access to higher level zones once it's unlocked, so unlocking it early might actually be a win for the long term. But Westfall and Dunmoreau, they both have something huge going for them. Access to zone-based dungeons. That's right, the Dead Mines and Nomer would be officially on the table if one of those 2 zones were unlocked. And that opens up entirely new gold-making avenues. dungeon lockout farming. Also, Westfall in particular has a weird overpopulation of rares with surprisingly decent drops. So this roll is high stakes. Okay, and the spinner's ready. I guess nothing left to do but roll the dice. Okay, well, that settles it. Goldylocked is officially Red Ridge bound. Not gonna lie, this is gonna be an interesting one. We're heading into brand new territory. New mobs, new herbs, new ores, new rares. But the same relentless grind. And I'm genuinely curious to see how we're going to have to adapt. How Goldylocked is going to have to handle the economy of a higher level zone with different mobs and different crafting nodes and danger around every corner. But that's what makes it exciting. So strap in. We're about to find out what Red Ridge has to offer, and more importantly, what we can make of it. And if you don't want to miss what comes next on this wild journey, hit that subscribe button. And to my fellow travelers, may the winds be at your back.